Welcome to Go Get Great, the podcast for aspiring entrepreneurs and ambitious small business owners. I'm your host, Brittany, owner of Brittany Miller Socials and mother of 3. Go Get Great is all about helping you make life and business work together. You'll learn about the fumbles that helped get me and my guests to where we are today so you don't have to make them. So come join the journey with Go Get Great. Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Go Get Great podcast. We are just recently entering 2024, so I thought today would be a great day to talk about what your content strategy should be in 2024 for the new year. So I know that this is a question I've been thinking a lot about lately as I plan what it is that I want to accomplish in the next year and then the actual strategies that I'll use to make that happen. And the majority of my strategy is going to remain the same as 2023 with kind of just a few small adjustments. So I'm still going to be posting on social media regularly. That's going to be how I connect with new people. I'm still going to be sending my regular emails with more consistency in that. So aiming to be sending weekly emails. And I'm still going to be doing all of the other kind of pieces that support that. I'm still going to have a podcast. I'm going to try and blog a little bit more this year. And really just focusing on creating as much value as I can, which is going to be the overarching theme for 2024. So we all know that it's a very noisy market now. Pretty much every single business in existence is on social media, which means that there's a lot of competition out there. And not only that, there's a lot of people talking about what they do on social media. So everyone's personal feed is very bombarded with sales messages all the time. And not even just sales messages, but like just in general, they see a lot of content from businesses regularly. So in order to kind of stand out in all of this noise, you need to be posting not only consistently, but frequently, which I think is the difference. Like in 2023, I said a lot of, quality over quantity. If you can only do one really good post a week, only do one good post. Well, I still stand by that as a philosophy. You need to be making quality content. Otherwise, people aren't going to have a reason to follow you. This year, you really do need to focus on volume. So you should be posting a minimum of 3 times a week as a business owner, preferably 5. So we want to make sure that we're getting our message out there consistently. And we also have to be aware of the fact that the majority of our followers and our people do not see our social media content every time we post it. I have like really core fans who see pretty much everything I put out there, but they still don't see all of it. So you need to be aware of that, and you need to overproduce and overmarket your services and the information that you're putting out there. So volume is going to be really important in 2024 to make sure that we're staying at the forefront of people's minds and putting ourselves ahead of all of the other noise and the other business owners that are out there who are just posting consistent or who are just posting occasionally. So that's a really big thing. Now, I get that creating 5 different social media posts a week is a lot. It's time consuming, especially depending on your skill and comfort level with social media content. And just creating that many different ideas can be a challenge sometimes to know what it is that we're going to talk about on social media that often. So in order to really make the volume piece sustainable for our business, what businesses are going to need to do is put in a long form content piece as the backbone of their strategy. So when I say long form content, what I mean is a podcast or a blog, a vlog. It could be cooking recipes if that's something that's related to your business. It could be like weekly office hours. But you need to have something that you are doing religiously every week, and then you're going to tailor your content strategy to that thing. So if you're running weekly office hours, you're going to be saying, hey, I'm going live at 2:00 today. Make sure you hop on, or 2:00 tomorrow. Make sure you hop on or submit your questions in advance. I'm going to answer them live, so that you have the answers to the questions that you're looking for. And then after that, you're going to be like, hey, did you know, here are some of the questions, if you didn't make it to the live, that people ask me, want to know more, check out my live next week, or bring your questions to my live next week. So you've now created 2 to 3 different posts around that weekly Q&A session that you are hosting. And then that means that you only need to really come up with 2 other pieces of content for your business about, who you are and what you do and how you can serve people. And then the value that you add as well, whatever it is that you're teaching or entertaining with. So that's going to be really key for a lot of people. You guys see that I do this with my podcast. You know that I make minimum of usually 5 posts a week for my podcast. Not all of those get shared to my business page because I feel like if people are interested in seeing a lot of it, then they can follow my podcasting page. And also because I have 2 different themes for my podcast. So I have like business, which is the majority of it, but I also have motherhood. And I don't want to bombard business owners that are maybe not moms with my motherhood content, which is why I have 2 separate accounts for it. Otherwise, yes, I would be posting about my podcast 5 times a week on my business page, in addition to the posts that I'm making about my business. So, for me, my content strategy is really to be posting more than 5 times a week. That's kind of the volume level that I want to be at for my business, because I know I have a consistent 2 to 3 posts that I can do each week very easily just from my podcast. It's not too challenging for me to come up with a couple other posts. I'm rarely at a loss for ideas. It's usually just the time to put it together. So that's something that I'm going to be focusing on. Now, when you're choosing a piece of long form content strategy, it needs to be a little bit more thought through than I'm going to do this because there's a lot of work involved in creating a piece of long form content. So kind of the first thing that I want you to think about, if you don't have some sort of long form content that you're doing already for your business, is what is it that your audience like and how do they consume it? So if your audience is like me and it's busy moms, one of the reasons that I picked podcasting is because I know that they can listen to it in the car. They can listen to it while they're washing the dishes, doing laundry. It's very portable and they don't need to be tied to a device to do it. They don't need to have 15 minutes or 30 minutes to sit down and read a novel every week to learn and grow themselves as an individual and a business owner. So podcasting is fabulous for that. If you have an audience that really loves to read, blogging's great. If your audience is more of a visual learner and you need to show as you teach, then a vlog is probably going to be where you want to go. So you need to think about the end result you want your audience and your listeners or your viewers to get from the content that you're creating, and then choose the medium that they're most likely able to digest that information in. So those are some of the most popular ones. Podcasting is really big right now. I also really love my podcast. So highly recommend that if that's something that you're considering. And then the second piece of that kind of puzzle is you need to think about what it is that you're not only passionate about talking about, so you know how often and regularly you can produce that long form content. I do suggest weekly, but how you want to share that information with people. So if your audience loves to listen to podcasts, but you have no desire to talk that much, it's not going to be a good alignment. So as much as that would be helpful for your audience, you should probably consider doing something else, at least in the short term, till you get more comfortable with it. You can always go and add later. So like I started with my podcast. I have now branched into, I'm going to call it a vlog, but it's still technically my podcast. But I now have a video version of my podcast that goes up on YouTube. And at some point in this next year, one of my goals is going to be to take the transcripts from my podcast episodes and turn them into blog posts for my business. That's one of the things that I'm hoping to kind of be more consistent with in terms of blogging. So then anyone that either doesn't have time to or listens to an episode and they're like, oh, that was really good, but I need to visually see it so like I can write it down, take notes, whatever, will have a written version of it as well. I apologize if I sound a little funny today. I'm still a little bit under the weather, but I was like, man, I really need to get this information out there. It is the new year. People are going to be asking these questions, and I want to be the person that they go to for the answers. Okay, so you need volume. Long form content is going to help you have that volume sustainably. The other thing you need to really worry about is focusing on bringing the value still. So kind of like I touched on earlier, quantity is not great if the quality is not there. And a lot of that quality is going to come from bringing the value. So you need to have really strong content pillars that you're constantly relating your content back to so that you know you're staying on track for your business. Being a business that educates is a great way to do that. There's always things that you can be teaching your audience or reteaching because people forget or didn't see the message in the first place. Entertaining is also a great way to go because there's not usually a shortage of different ways that you can be funny and entertain and all of those wonderful things. So you need to choose your content pillars, and I talk about this in a lot of episodes, so I'm not going to spend too much time here. But education and entertainment are the two biggest content pillars that I see for business owners. You're likely going to use one of those two in addition to sales and then something else that's related to your business. The other thing that I really want to share too is that if you are a business that has an educational content pillar like I do, give it all away. You do not need to worry about gatekeeping or oversharing or only connecting with people that are just interested in learning to DIY. You will naturally attract those DIY people, but eventually those DIY business owners are going to get to the point where they can no longer DIY. It's not sustainable for their business model to scale, or they just in general don't enjoy doing whatever it is. And that's when they're going to be willing to pay to work with you one-on-one because you are the shortcut to the desire it is that they have. And you've already positioned yourself as an expert by sharing so much value with them. They know that you'll be able to support them to actually make that desire a reality. So you don't have to worry about sharing too much information. I literally tell you guys all the time how I run my business, how I create content for myself and my clients. You can very easily go out and do it yourself. And a lot of you do. And I love seeing what it is that you put together. But there are some business owners that just don't have the time, the energy, the passion, the desire, whatever it is, to do it. And they're the ones that are going to hire me. I'm not concerned about the fact that I'm not going to have clients because I'm telling people how to do it themselves. The other thing that I kind of want to note too, one second. The other thing that I want to note too is if you are going to kind of follow along with the advice here, to have a volume strategy, you need to be very focused on what it is that you're doing, not only in your content pillars and what you're creating, but the platform that you're really focused on growing. So you need to pick one primary platform and more or less ignore the others unless you have time or support to repurpose the content for those other platforms. So I have an episode where I talk, and I'll link this in the show notes, about the specific intricacies of all of the platforms and what ones you should be on based on the typical consumer of each of the platforms. Today, I'm just going to give you like a 2-minute overview for those of you that are just like, I just need a fast answer. What is it that I'm doing in 2024? So Instagram is where it's at. It is most popular for all types of businesses, and it is where the majority of people that you are likely to connect with are hanging out, unless you have a particular business that has a less common niche, like you're targeting kids. But even at that point, you're targeting kids because they're the consumer, but you're actually targeting parents because they're the ones that are buying the products. But 90% of businesses are going to be able to leverage Instagram to successfully grow their business. Facebook is a great maintenance platform in case people look you up. It's not really great for growing your business on. It's not really great for growing on because it's not where the majority of people hang out. You've got a lot of like an older audience there, and they're not necessarily the shop online kind of people. More so like the younger audiences, and they're all on Instagram. So it's okay to post on Facebook because if you're using Instagram as your primary platform, which is usually what I recommend for businesses, it will automatically post to Facebook. I'm not going to tell you not to do that because there's no additional work for you. It does it for you. So in that case, go ahead and continue using Facebook because a lot of people will look people up on Facebook still because of the Facebook reviews, which Instagram does not have. So it's okay to have a presence on Facebook, but I wouldn't dedicate your time to like engaging and connecting and growing with people on there unless they're actively like responding to comments. TikTok is not going anywhere this year. It's a great platform for entertaining. It's not particularly fabulous for most businesses if you don't create entertaining content. Educational content does okay on TikTok, but again, your target audience needs to be younger for this, like less than 30. And spending time here isn't necessarily going to translate into sales for you because that younger audience doesn't necessarily have the budget to invest. They're in school, they're looking to buy houses. They're not necessarily in the shopping mindset when they're on TikTok, unless you're more of like an influencer style business and you have some of those lower ticket products. For me to be on TikTok as a social media manager, I might connect with some of those businesses, but the majority of people that would watch my content are probably just curious about social media and not necessarily going to invest to work with me one-on-one. So X, or formerly Twitter, it's kind of going through a bit of a teenage rebellion stage right now. It works if your audience is there, but you have to be even more volume to be there. So like you need to be posting 3 or more tweets a day to stay relevant on that platform. It's still predominantly older men that are there. Not always fabulous. Threads is kind of like there, but not. There are lots of people that are still actively using it, but I think the trend has very quickly died down. If you kind of have a similar Instagram audience, then maybe Threads would work well for you. It's a little bit more Twitter-esque, but I would not put all of your eggs in that basket yet because it is still a much newer platform, and it would be an okay like secondary or maintenance platform for you. And there are times where I'll go in and use Threads to do like Twitter style posts with B-roll in the background. So I'm not saying don't have it. I'm just saying probably not a great idea to make your primary platform. LinkedIn, you really need to be publishing articles to stay relevant. You also have to have a B2B type business. And you also have to know that the majority of people that are on there are only there because they're looking for a job and then they stop using the platform. So unless you are another business that targets business, hence B2B, you're probably not going to find the people that you need when you need them. If you're, let's say, like a career developer or someone like that, then you might be able to capitalize on some of the people that are on there when they're job hunting. But it's a very small percent of businesses that will see great success using LinkedIn. And it does take a lot of time to build the genuine connections. You need to be really committed because cold DMs don't work. I mean, cold DMs honestly don't work on any platform, but LinkedIn especially, people are very adverse to that. I don't like it. I get people in my inbox all the time. They're like, how would you like an extra 20 appointments a month? It was like, I wouldn't. Each appointment is usually half an hour to an hour. I don't have an extra 20 hours in my schedule to be tied up with people that are likely not going to invest in my service. Thank you very much. Delete. Anyway, mini rant over. So the last one I want to touch on very briefly is Pinterest. So Pinterest is perfect for e-commerce businesses that have an online shop or bloggers because it drives traffic back to your website. It can be used for service-based providers as well, but you need to be posting very consistently to it, and you have to have a strong Pinterest strategy. So this is something that I want to try and test the waters with a little bit this year, but I'm only using it for my business because I have a piece of long form content to support it. So if you're blogging, Pinterest, fabulous. My podcasts also work because I have a unique page for each podcast episode that I can then use a pin to promote to drive traffic to my podcast. So that's primarily how I'm hoping to leverage Pinterest in the next year. So that sums up the different platforms. So again, pick one to be your primary platform. Anything else is just a bonus, but I wouldn't worry about it too much because the majority of your audience and the majority of your sales, like they always say, usually comes from 20% of your efforts. So focus your 20% of your social media efforts, focus all of your social media efforts on one platform, and you're likely to see the most results from that. So again, another big overarching topic that you're going to need to really have a habit, fundamental mindset for your business is that you need to be planning. To support volume, you cannot be winging it every day. I guarantee you it will not work. It's going to frustrate you and you're going to get burnt out super fast. So you need to be planning a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks of your content at a time. This still allows you to be flexible, but you need to be prepared because when you get busy, and it will happen, you're going to just be like, I don't have time for this. I'm not doing this today. And then there goes any habits you might have started to put into place. And also there goes your sales, because if you're not consistently posting on social media, you're not consistently connecting with new people and building your audience. And then when you need sales, you have no one to sell to. So it's really important that you have a plan in place, not only for the posts that you're making, but also what you're going to be talking about in your stories, because sales happen the majority of the time in your stories. So if you're not leveraging your stories, you are leaving money on the table. I recommend that you're in your stories at least 5 to 6 days a week. You should have a minimum of 1 story up each day. 3 to 5 is kind of more the sweet spot, but if you're like, Brittany, I've been posting once a week. Now you want me to post 5 times and be active in my stories and have 3 stories up a day? No. It's like, okay, I get it. Start with something that seems realistic. If you're going from 1, go to 3 posts. If you're at 3, aim for 5. And then try and just have 1 story active each day. So your story can be as simple as sharing your post to your stories to let people know it's there. Because the majority of Instagram users look at stories more than they spend time in their feed. So they're more apt to see your new post in your story than they are in their feed. So it can be that simple. There are lots of other things you should be doing to have a strong Instagram story strategy, but that would be a good first step for you. So you need a plan to be consistent with both of those pieces, which is why for Black Friday, I was doing the quarterly content plan to help business owners set themselves up for success in 2024, because I knew this is what they were going to need. So if you're interested in learning more about what that looks like, then you need to reach out so that we can talk about it. I will likely be changing the name of it very shortly to something a little bit better than quarterly content plan. So stay tuned for that. But I will help you plan your posts and your stories for 90 days at a time. That's basically what that means. So again, another big thing that you need to consider to support volume, you need to have a plan and you need to work smarter rather than harder. So in addition to all of this is great, but you need to be capitalizing on the traffic and the interest engagement that you're getting on social media, and you need to be translating them to email marketing. So I'm not going to talk too much about that today because that's coming up in another episode. I kind of talk through how to grow your social media strategy in a sustainable way. But you need to not rely exclusively on social media for your sales, because your sales numbers will be lower than if you had email marketing in place. Email marketing is a sales driver for every single big business out there. I guarantee it. I know this because I read all their books and they flat out tell you. And also I see it in my own business. It's where my sales come from too. So speaking from experience, that is something that you need to be doing. And again, stay tuned for one of my next solo episodes where I'll be talking in depth about kind of how to structure all of those phases and how to know when it's time for you to go from social media to email marketing, kind of adding that next piece. So to summarize the big takeaways from this, volume is important. And in order to have volume, you need to work smarter than harder. And you need to have certain things in place, like a plan, a type of long form content, and email marketing to truly leverage all of this. And you need to focus all of your efforts on one social media platform to see the results that you're looking for. I also want to share a few additional tips that I think are going to be really helpful for you. Okay, so I have been a little afraid to say this, but if you are not getting on camera, you are hurting your business. You are leaving money on the table. And I say this, or rather, I didn't say this before, because I know that everyone's biggest complaint and concern when they come to work with me as a social media manager is, I'm just not comfortable doing it. I'm not good at it. I don't have time for it. XYZ. There's a bazillion different things I've been told for this. And I'd be like, okay, well, let's see what we can do to make sure that you don't have to do that. But the reality is, when you talk directly to your audience, you build a connection with them faster and it's stronger. So you are more likely to generate money in your business sooner because you're creating that personal connection by getting your face and your voice out there to represent your business. When you are showing up in videos on Reels and live in your Instagram stories to talk to your audience, that is huge. That is the content that converts. That is the content that performs well on the platform. You are going to get the most, I'm going to say bang for your buck here in terms of what you invest your time in more so. But I would rather you spend 30 seconds going live in your stories than create 2 static image posts for your business, because you will get better results from that. So as much as everyone's uncomfortable doing it, there are so many things that I do as a business owner that makes me feel uncomfortable when I first do it. It's just something that you're going to have to try and practice and get more comfortable doing, because if you don't, your competitors will, and you will lose customers to the competitors that are doing this. That is the reality of the situation, and I'm finally saying it out loud. The other thing, people don't want to hear this either, usually, but Reels are still going to be number 1 in 2024. Everyone likes video content. They might not like creating it, but they like consuming it. So that is what you need to be putting out there. And like I said, going live in your stories. It's that personal connection. It's kind of entertaining, even if it's not designed to be like, haha, funny. People enjoy it. And all the platforms are slowly, mostly, except X, transitioning to have a strong feature on video content. So you need to really be working on that in 2024. You have to have a focus on educational content, which you can do in Reels, or you can do like in carousels because they're easily saved. So like those are a close second. I'm not saying don't ever post a static image, because there's a time and a place for everything, but the bulk of your content needs to be video or something that's worth saving. Hence having a plan, having strong content pillars, all of those wonderful things. The other thing, you need to sell more. I guarantee you that even if you think you're selling enough, you are not. I feel this way in my business too. And all of the business coaches and people that I hire and invest in tell me that I need to sell more. And I feel like everything I do is more or less sales related, but it's not. And the reality is that your audience doesn't feel like they're being sold to. Usually, there are the odd case where that's not true, but usually they don't feel sold to. You need to sell more. And the reason you are not making money from your social media is because you are not clearly outlining, this is what I do, this is who I serve, this is how I'm going to help you, we're going to get this result, click here to buy. You're not laying it out in black and white for them. So they're just like, okay, interesting, I liked it, moving on to the next post. You need to get very clear on your sales strategy. And again, this all comes back to having a plan. I mentioned this a little bit earlier too, but do not build on social media alone. You have to have email marketing, or you're kind of just wasting your time. There is a little bit of a gray area when you first get started, but you need to have an email marketing system set up, and you need to have an email marketing strategy to support your social media strategy. Another tip is people are going to talk about you no matter what. Trying not to make waves in the realm of social media, just not going to happen. Doesn't happen as a business owner in general. I guarantee you, your family and your friends have opinions about what you're doing. They either love it and they're 100% there as your cheerleader, or they're like, this chick's crazy. So they're going to have those opinions regardless. It has literally nothing to do with you and everything to do with them and their own personal beliefs. So you might as well stop being afraid of that and do what it is that A, makes you happy, and B, makes you money. So you need to stop being afraid of what those people are going to say, and also about turning people away on social media. Because if you aren't doing this, if you're not alienating some people and having people go, you know what, this person's not for me, you are wasting your time, literally, and your money, because you're going to end up on calls with those people, or they're going to purchase products, and then they're going to find out that they're not really aligned for the problems and desires that they have. And then you're going to be dealing with either refunds or a really low call conversion rate. So the more time you spend talking to these people and selling these not ideal clients, products and services for your business, you are hurting your business and wasting your time. And you do not want to end up, especially if you are like a one-on-one service provider like me, you do not want to end up working with someone that is not aligned for you. It's going to drain you emotionally, it's going to drain your time, and you're going to burn out faster. I have learned this the hard way, the really hard way. So I speak from experience when I say this. Turn the wrong people away. And again, that comes back to having a really strong understanding of who your ideal clients are and having a great content strategy in place to attract those people and repel the ones that are not. Okay, my last quick tip for you is that creating content for you should be fun and it should be easy. You should wake up and be really excited to share what you do with other people. You started this business because supposedly you're passionate about whatever it is. And if you go to create content and you're like, I don't want to do this. This is awful. No. There is a misalignment with what it is that you're posting that's making you feel that way. Because I love doing these podcast episodes and sharing what I know with everyone. It lights me up incredibly to do this. I love creating social media content and again, sharing what I know with people, empowering other entrepreneurs to have the confidence to market their own business is what gets me out of bed in the morning. Creating content should feel exciting and it should be easy. And if it's not, then there's either a skill or a tool that you're missing to make it easier for you, or you don't have like the correct plan in place and it's stressing you out. So you need to figure out where the disconnect is for you and address that problem ASAP. Because like I said, 2024 is going to be about the year of having volume and being ahead of the noise in your business. And if you're already not enthusiastic about creating 1 or 2 social media posts a week, then the thought of creating 5 is going to have you like feeling nails on the chalkboard like sounds in your head. And we do not want that. So we need to get you set up and situated to do this in a way that feels aligned. And I guarantee you that it is possible to do this. It's just a very complex process, so I'm not going to talk about it on this episode, but it is giving me an idea for another episode that I'd like to do in the future that I think will be really beneficial about how I make sure my content creation plans and strategies and execution comes from an aligned state for me. Because on those days where I force it, that content does not ever perform well. You need to have the passion and enthusiasm and the energy behind what you're saying and what you're creating for it to translate for your clients. So this is, while like a sub point overall, really, really important to making sure that the efforts you're putting into your content are going to yield results for your business. All right. So I'm going to wrap up today's episode. I hope that you found that incredibly valuable and gave you insight for 2024. My desire and my goal was not to stress anyone out. So if you're feeling that way, I do apologize. That's a very good indication that something is not aligned. It would be great if you booked a complimentary 30-minute clarity call so that we can talk about it and dive deeper into why you feel this way and what we can do to get you out of that feeling so that you can maximize 2024 for your own enjoyment and also to support your business. So until next week, have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Go Get Great. I hope you found some useful tips and tricks that can help you make life and business work together. If what I said resonates with you, please share it on social media and don't forget to tag at Brittany Miller Socials so that I can celebrate you for taking those first steps towards achieving greatness. Remember, success doesn't happen overnight. It takes dedication, hard work, and a lot of spirit. So don't be afraid to dream big and go after what you want. Keep striving for greatness. You get closer with every step forward, no matter how small they may seem. Until next time, go get great.